Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everything is going well for you and yours. This is the portion of the show where we let YouTube send out the notifications via social media, let folks know that the broadcast is getting ready to start. We'll sit here and we'll count down the next 2 minutes before I push that button and go live. If you happen to be watching this on replay, go ahead and scrub past this graphic until you see my smiling face. If you have any questions and you're joining us today in the live chat, feel free to go ahead and add those questions to the live chat now, and we'll get to them in due course during this live Q&A session. So, sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and we'll get going in about 30 seconds. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Episode 100. Holy cow. Who'd have thunk it? This whole journey, this whole trip has been an adventure from day one, and it never, ever, ever ceases to amaze me that you folks find anything I have to say worthy of even bothering to come back, let alone keep coming back the way you guys have been. I mean, you guys are excellent. It's 100% you. Thank you very, very much. And here's looking forward to another 100. We'll go ahead and we'll take care of the elephant in the room right now. A lot of people have asking. They have been asking me about the fires here in Oregon. We are perfectly safe. The closest fire to us is about 100 miles to our east, and it's spreading away from us. So we're in no danger at all. Now, there are some fires down in Northern California, and when the wind shifts, we get some residual smoke up here, but we're in no danger at all. You know, so all you folks back east and down south who are bogarting all the rain, help a brother out. Kind of, send a few drops up this way. We could use it. But other than that, no, we are perfectly safe. Everything is absolutely fine. So I kind of wanted to make today a little bit of a special one, but it didn't work out. I wanted to try to broadcast from the shop shed, and it just didn't work out because I didn't get finished early enough. I'll go ahead and segue into what's going on there with a kind of a mini update. Those of you who've been following me on Instagram and Twitter, and to a lesser extent, Facebook, I've been having some issues with Facebook, let's say. You know that I've been in a major push to get the ceiling finished. And that has been mainly so I can rehang my shop lights and actually see what I'm doing out there. Well, the ceiling is finished finally. Yesterday afternoon, I'm going to try to share this photo here, and we will get her up. The ceiling of the shed is finished, and my shop lights are hung. Now, this photo is very, very deceiving, simply because I'm pointing the camera at a bunch of bright lights, so the camera is trying to compensate for that. The ceiling looks a lot darker than it is. It is not anywhere near that dark. It's a color called almost charcoal, and it is about a medium gray color, and that's because I want the ceiling to blend in and just disappear. I want good contrast for video, and these 6 LED shop lights make it look like daylight in the shed. But I've been working with a couple of little clamp-on dome lights with LED bulbs in them that made it look so dark in there I could barely see. So I was in a major push to get this ceiling finished and get the lights hung so I can get to work on the sheathing for the walls. And that is next. So, but the ceiling is not this dark. It just, that's a trick of the camera because it's trying to compensate for the bright lights. So the special thing I wanted to do was I wanted to start broadcasting the live Q&As from the shop. It didn't work out because, to be honest, it stinks out there. I got to let that paint cure a little bit. I used it's a Sherwin-Williams interior latex semi-gloss, hashtag not sponsored. And I did that because dust tends to stick to semi-gloss a heck of a lot less than it will to a flat or a satin finish. And I do plan on running dust collection, but until I get that up, I'll be stuck with a small shop vac and going through all those motions. But with a semi-gloss finish, I can just take the air hose or put the shop vac on blow and then, hit it with the broom and just blow all that junk out the front door. What the shop vac doesn't pick up, that is. So here's hoping, fingers crossed, I hope to be doing next week's live Q&A from out in the shop shed. But we'll see how that goes, because now I've got to start getting... I've just made arrangements with my nephews. Next Saturday, we'll be going to get my table saw out of storage, finally. And we'll just see how much room I have in there with that, plus the flooring and a couple of other supplies we have out there. We're getting close. We're getting real close. And, brother, I can't tell you how eager I am to get out there. So that was just kind of a little bit of a mini update. Not next week's video. Next week's video I already have about half shot, but the weekend after that, the video after that will be the shop shed update. Next week's video, I'll talk about a little bit later on in the towards the end. I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, in that we are in what I like to call that long, dark tea time of the soul, in that version 11 of the Vectric software is very, very close to being released. If you follow Vectric on any of their social media, they've been sending out the teaser videos of what's coming in version 11. Well, they normally, historically, have started doing that, posting those teaser videos anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks before the version is released and goes live. Now, I'm not an insider. I don't work for Vectric. So I'm still using version 10.5 myself. I don't know what all is in version 11 other than what they've made public. The beauty of this is they have incorporated a couple of things that I really think is going to be cool. And I won't be giving anything away because they've already made it public. For instance, they have finally integrated spell check into the text tools. So hopefully that'll keep us from wishing people a happy birthday in a $200 piece of, crotch mahogany. So they are finally integrating spell check into the text tools. So that's a big help right there. And a couple of other things. I mean, the ability to import a 3D model as separate components in segments and in sections to avoid undercuts and things like that. That's really going to help. I mean, big time. But there's a lot more coming up. My issue is I'm kind of hard pressed to come up with a video talking about a subject that you guys are interested in when I don't know what's going to change. And I know my luck. If it's 40 degrees below zero and I take off my right glove, whatever I'm searching for is going to be in my left pocket. That's just what it's like to be me. So if I do a video on a technique or a process or something like that, it's going to completely change in a few weeks when the new version comes out. So I'm kind of pressing the easy button on the next couple of videos until the new version comes out and I see what has changed and what hasn't. So that's kind of why we're, in flux right now. So that's where we're getting into that, but I'll get into next week's video here in just a minute. Steve Perdue is late to the party. No, there's no fires anywhere near us. The closest one's about 100 miles away from us and moving away from us. We're just fine. So, and as a brief aside, oops, wrong one. Where do you go? You jumped. Kurt Briegel, fan of Douglas Adams, I see. Yes, sir, I am. I am a prude who knows where his towel is. So the right people will get that. Let's jump back up here and get into a few questions. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them into the chat and we will get to them in due course. It's going to be kind of a bouncing around episode today. So let's see here. We had a couple up here close to the top. Bill Gray wants to know how to contact me privately by email, possibly. That too is in flux right now because I'm doing some work on the website and the contact us page is down. And there were a bunch of broken links and basically software versions have been updated and what have you. And I've been slow to catch up. There was a link on the front page of my website that said, click here to go to post, and it led to an empty page. And I mean, it's been a mess. People have been having problems with trying to download the files that they purchased or the free files that are on my store. And hopefully that is all straightened out. Lewis Denton, check your emails. I have replied. And you should be squared away. Here's hoping. So kind of be patient, Bill. You can go over to the community page on my YouTube channel. And I'll put a link to that community page in the description of this as soon as we're finished live. And you can ask a question over there. The public can see it, but they have to go over to the community page to see it, and they have to be subscribers to my channel. So I wrote myself a note to post that link in the description of this video as soon as we're done. But as it sits right now, there really isn't a way to get a hold of me via email. So I apologize for that. Let me see here. We have to find another quick question. And let's see. Oh, come on. Let's find them. There were a bunch of them here. Now I just have to drag down. And thank you for all the congratulations for the 100 live episodes. Beverly Benham, it's not really a question, but hello from Corvallis, right up Interstate 5 from me, not too far. Running a stacked text project right now, following your videos. Good luck. Just pay attention to detail and you should do swimmingly. So let's see. Dave Blackburn says, hey Mark, are you planning on some more rotary axis and wrap projects? Yes, I am. That's something that I have neglected for too long. I've got a lot of projects here that need the rotary axis, and I'm just been in that flux. I took a little, I won't say heat, but I got a lot of questions about why I went with that spray foam insulation when it's so expensive. And I'll give you an example as to why. Before, the old shop that I'm in has no insulation at all. It's just bare 2x4 studs and the siding that's on the outside of the building. And the radiant heat from the sun, it'll get 120 degrees inside that shop shed. Computers don't like that kind of heat. So I was kind of relegated to working in the spring and then working in the fall, and occasionally in the winter if it wasn't too cold, because I could run a heater to warm up the shop, but the minute I turned anything on, I had to shut the heater off. Otherwise, I'd trip a breaker, because that entire shop was on one single 15 amp circuit. So I could run the CNC or I could run the heater, but I couldn't do both. So I had to prioritize what I was working on out there, and the rotary axis kind of fell by the wayside. Once I get into the new shop, I have a lot of rotary axis projects, and I'm going to be getting back into it a lot heavier. It's going to be a little bit more of a learning curve for me as well, simply because the rotary axis projects I have done were designed in version 8.5. Well, 2 new versions have come out since then, working on number 3. So I'm going to have to get back into it and relearn a lot of what I have forgotten over the last couple of years. But the short answer is yes, there's going to be a lot more rotary axis projects coming, and possibly a special series, but we'll see how that works out. So, but thanks for asking, Dave. I definitely need to get back into it. So let's see here. Let's go. Okay, Ernie Flores wants to know, hello, Mark, how do I download the Gaudi initial EN font library? I've had 2 questions on that, one in a comment on the video and one in your question right now. And I should have prepared for this a little bit more. Let me look, see if I can find okay. Here's a good example. Let me screen share again. And I did find one. Share screen. Share. Okay, now pardon the time tunnel look here. When you go to get a font, you download it to your computer. More than likely, what you're going to end up with is a zip file like this one right here. And a zip file is a compressed file format where they can put 2 or 3 different files into one file, compress it. Then you could go download it, and that's what you'll download is a zip file. When you select the zip file here, now this is in Windows 10, you'll see in this folder the extract tools open up when you select that zip file. What you want to do is, let me find it. Where is it? I've already done it, so the button may not be there. You should see an option up here that says extract all. Or you can right click and there it is right there, extract all. Okay. You have to unzip that file. Now it just happens right above it here is the file that I unzipped. This is a font that is like a military stencil. So that folder was unzipped and there it is. This right here, the TTF, is the font. And this one here is another version. But you can see you have license agreements and a README file as well. What you'll need to do to install the font is, by all means, read this and read the license agreement. Some of these cannot be used for commercial purposes without at least attributing the author of the font or paying a license fee. So do pay attention to that. But to go ahead and install the font, you'll select that font, then right click, and right here, install. Or there's install for all users if you have more than one user on your computer system. Because right now, click off here, right now I've just downloaded the font, but the computer doesn't know it's there. So I'll have to right click install, and it will install the font in the proper folder, do all the right registry entries and everything else. And then it will become ready for use in every program, not just VCarve or Aspire. So you have to download it, download the zip file, unzip the file, then go to each font that's in that file folder and install them separately. Once you've done that, they're available for use. So I hope that answers that question and gets everybody on the same sheet of music. So as far as finding the file, just do a Google search for it. There are almost always more than one source of any particular font. So hope that helps. Let's see, scroll back up here and find any more questions. Let me see. Okay, T Button says, I have selected and moved my vectors over after a mishap. Is there a way to also move my toolpaths and toolpaths names without recalculating each one? Now, if you mean you have gone back over into your 2D view and you have moved these vectors around, or you have changed your XY datum, all you need to do is go back over to the Toolpaths tab and click Recalculate All Toolpaths, and it will automatically recalculate all the toolpaths you've done. that you have created using that new position or that new XY datum position. So that's all that's all it takes. So let's see. Let's see here. Let's see. Lewis Denton says, I thought I knew enough to use templates, but I don't. I can't save the toolpath associated with the template to the file I want to take to the machine. Okay. When you use a template file, you can calculate toolpaths in the file that you create, then save that as a template. When you go to open that template, it's a read-only file. You can make no changes to that template. You open the template file, then immediately save that as a new CRV or CRV 3D file. Then you can save those toolpaths that's associated with the template. The template is just there to give you the artwork and the toolpaths that you've calculated for that particular artwork. It's not going to let you make any changes. And there are some certain restrictions, although you should be able to save G-code from the template. But maybe I'm wrong in that. But load the template file, then save it as a new CRV file or CRV 3D if you're using Aspire. Then you should be able to save the toolpaths, the G-code files, what have you, and go from there. Okay. The template is there just to give you the artwork, the settings, and everything that you associated when you created that file template. It's not there to be a working file. So, let's see. Steve Russell says, now I know why you didn't answer my email. I'm very behind on email, Steve. I will go look for it. I apologize. I really apologize for that. Let's see. Robbie wants to know, how do I add raised text on clip art? Do you have VCarve or Aspire? In Aspire, it's relatively straightforward. If it's VCarve, you have to do a little bit of playing around with it, and that would dictate the answer. So, let's see. Let's see here. Jan wants to know, as a complete newbie without a lot of space, is it worth getting a 3-in-1 like Snapmaker 2.0? I'm not familiar with that. To learn the ropes before getting a bigger CNC. This is a controversial answer because it's a controversial question. In that, I don't recommend CNC routers. I really don't, because I don't know the variables you have. I don't know your situation, budget, how much space you have, and what you're going to be doing with the CNC router. Now, I've never heard of the Snapmaker 2.0. I don't know how big it is. But if you don't have a lot of space, that's the first thing that hit me. Take the working size of the CNC router and double that. That's how much space you will need to be able to work with that CNC router. Because you're going to need to be able to get all the way around the machine physically and handle materials. You may be trying to, you have to get material up onto the table. You may want to tile and be able to shove material underneath the gantry through to the back. There may be dust collection issue, excuse me, issues where you have to get to the back of the machine, troubleshooting, maintenance, all this other good stuff. So, however big the working area of the machine is, double that measurement, and that's how much clear space you need around the machine, ideally. I mean, you can kind of fake it here and there, but you believe me, and I'm talking about a guy who's got a, I'm speaking as a guy who has a machine that's almost 6 feet wide in a shop that is 8 feet wide right now. If if I had interior sheathing on the walls in my old shop, I wouldn't be able to get to either side of my machine, let alone the back, without crawling underneath. So I duck myself in between studs and kind of worm my way through there. It can be done, but it's not a fun operation. Take a realistic look at what you plan on doing with the machine. It's nice to have a machine that you can throw a piece of plywood up on and just start cutting. But be honest with yourself, and how often do you plan on doing that? If you're not planning on making cabinets, a lot of cabinets, or doing similar work with large materials, do you really need a huge machine? I know personally 5 people who have machines that is that size. They can put an entire sheet of plywood up and cut it. And one of them uses that capacity. The others have, every one of them said they would have saved their money and bought a smaller machine and used the tiling features because they've never needed that much capacity. They just bought it because they could. That's great, but it's kind of like buying a car. You need to get a truck so you can make occasional trips to the landfill and you can haul material and supplies. But does it make sense to start looking for a 10-yard dump truck because you might haul a boulder one day? You know, I would say 99% of the projects I cut are smaller than about 16 inches wide by about 11 inches tall. I don't need a huge amount of capacity. Doesn't mean that I'll never use it, just that I don't need it right now. The materials you're going to cut are also a consideration. So all I'm saying is take an honest appraisal of what you actually realistically intend to do with your machine, then figure in your budget and go for the best that you can find. The one, and I'll preach this to the cows come home. The number one thing to look for is customer support after the sale, because you can buy a cheap machine and import it, but who do you talk to when it breaks? Who do you talk to when you need help? Look for a brand that supports their machines after the sale, because that is more important than you'll ever realize right now. So I'll get off of that soapbox. As far as starting with a smaller machine and moving up, sure, that's a great way to go. That's a very good way to go. So, the price of admission is a lot less that way. I mean, you can get a really good machine for less than $4,000. You can spend a lot more than that getting a bigger machine. So, yeah. Let's see. Terry W., do you know the typical upgrade cost of version 11 if you are past the free upgrade date? No, I do not. I know what they've charged in the past, but I don't know what they're going to be charging now. It depends on which software you have. I will say this, anytime there has been a major update, it's been well worth the money, and I've gone ahead and got that update. I've never regretted it. So, and the any upgrades within the version family, like for instance, from version 10 to version 10.5, that's free for all version 10 users. So you're basically, if you purchase an upgrade to Vergis or version 11, you'll be also getting the upgrade to version 11.5 when it comes out. So there we go. All right, let's see. Oh, Michael has got a big one. Mike Smith. Here is a Stump the Pro question. Okay, you pros out there, get ready. Under Edit Options, I can change the background colors in my 3D view. Okay. I have been told I can have my client take a photo of her wallpaper. Part 2 coming, where she will be hanging a sign I'm making for her. Use that photo for the background and show her what it looks like on her wall. How do I accomplish that? All I figured out is how to change the colors. I'm going to have to get in there and find out myself because I'm not sure. I really don't know. I don't know. I know you can change the colors, yes, but I don't know if that 3D view relies on a image or if it's just color grading that's within the software, kind of like any other imaging photograph where you create a gradient. Well, that gradient doesn't rely on an image. It is created within the software. I do know I do know that the material samples that you have for like wood or plastic or cherry or maple or whatever in your 3D view, that relies on an image, and you can go add images into that folder. But that's a good one, Mike. Let me check on that. I just wrote myself a note. That might be good for a tips and tricks video on how to change that background image, but I'm really not certain how to get it done. Okay, let me see. Okay, yeah, reload and shoot. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me to get back on track. My train of thought derailed. I was talking about why I went with the spray foam insulation earlier in the new shop shed and how hot it is in my old shed. The reason I went with the spray foam is to get as much insulation as possible. And I'm here to tell you it works. I have a small portable in-room air conditioner unit that I basically inherited from my father. And I kind of jerry-rigged it to mount in the man door, the inlet and outlet hoses for it. And just with that alone, we have had days up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit here since I've done that. That little air conditioner has kept it at a constant 72 degrees inside that shed the entire time. It's never gotten above that while I've had that air conditioner running. It's gotten it down to 71 where I had to turn it up a little bit because it was getting too cold in there. But if that little AC unit that's made to be a single room air conditioning unit, if it'll keep that shop at that temperature without overworking itself, I'm a huge fan. So now this means I will be able to work in that shed for all year round. So I'll be able to get a lot more projects done. And so I know I keep telling people as soon as I get moved into the new shop, I've got a list a mile long of projects that I want to do and things that I want to show you and actually get out and cut these projects that I've been showing you how to design. in VCarve and Aspire. And there's going to be a lot of emphasis on a lot of things. Where to set your XYZ 0, why the center versus the bottom left corner. Well, now I've machined away the center of my material. Where do I set my Z0? I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to demonstrate it. I got to be able to be in the shop to do it. That's why I'm in such a hurry to try to get this going. So it's coming. It's just not there yet. Talking about heat, I've noticed that my spindle VFD fan is coming on when the CNC isn't running. It's just the ambient heat doing it. Yeah, electronics does not like heat. I mean, that's just a fact. When I was in the Army, my first enlistment, I was a radar crewman. We were the only people out in the field that had air conditioning in our vehicles because the radar equipment, the controllers, needed air conditioning. They had to be at a lower temperature. I mean, I liked it and everybody else hated us. What can I say? Let's see. Richard says, how many ounces on the stepper motors of your rotary axis? I want to buy one, but not sure which. The holding torque of the stepper motor is less important than the amperage, that it match your power supplies and everything. Also, because most rotary axes are belt driven. So you have a gear reduction there. Mine has a 425 ounce motor, but vast majority of them have, I believe they're 269. Either one is fine, just so long as it is compatible with the power supply. That's the holding torque is really less important than it match up with your power supply. I don't think I've seen many people put a lot of emphasis on that, mainly because it's not like a lathe. You're not sitting there spinning that at 700 RPM. It's just going to move slightly as it needs to rotate. So it's just make sure that it is compatible and will work with the power supplies and breakout boards that you're using. That's more important than the holding torque. So let's see. Kind of cruise down here. Okay, Jack Painter wants to know, have you worked with any of the Vectric gadgets or coming later? Some of them will be coming later. The short answer is no. I've not worked with any of the gadgets so far, but that is coming. But there's a few of them in there that are very cool. One of the reasons I have not gotten into the gadgets much at all is because I have geared my channel toward the beginner who has never done anything like this before. And a good percentage, probably the majority of the beginners, are using the desktop version of either Cut 2D or VCarve. And the desktop version does not support gadgets at all. So with gadget support not being available to desktop users, I felt like I was kind of doing a disservice to those people who are learning VCarve desktop or Cut 2D desktop. I do plan on getting into some gadgets because there are some very cool ones in there. I just haven't gotten there yet. It's on the list though. So Paul Coffey makes a good point. Actually, a good tip when buying equipment is to have a look at their manual first. Truth. If you can't understand the instructions or the manual, whether it be because of language nuances or just the fact that they don't have one, that should be a red flag as well. You know, It's a lot of money to spend. So go for the biggest bang you could get for your buck. That's all I'm getting at. So see, Michael Mazalik comes to the rescue again. The job setup appearance color would be the photo, but the component property appearance would be a different color or material. I think what he is referring to, Michael, is the color after you've done your 3D preview and you have your project in that preview window, the background color. I know you can change that background color. Can you add a photo? Like in his case, his example was a photo of the wallpaper in the customer's living room so they can see the project against that wallpaper. It's an interesting concept, and I just don't know. I'm going to have to dig in and see. We'll find out, I guess. Let's see. Dave Gatton just got here. I'll watch the rewind. That's good because then you missed the announcement that I'm going to try to broadcast from the shop shed next week. It just smelled too much like wet paint in there this week. And the echo isn't all that bad, but you'll be the final judge of that. So let's see. Lewis Denton, I wanted to provide a background color in a stacked image. I created a unique Vectric file where I created the surfacing toolpath for the background so I could assign a color to the toolpath. Well, that's one way to cheat the system. I get what you're saying. And if it works, it works. Murphy's Law of Combat number 6. If it's stupid, but it works, it isn't stupid. So, but it would be nice to be able to get in and actually change that background. Let me look. I'll dig into it. I can't say yes. I can't say no. So, all right. Let's see. Are we in the shop soon? That's going to depend on how many pennies I can save up to buy the sheathing. I need 12 sheets of sheathing. And if you have priced any kind of sheathing for walls lately, that's a holy cow price. And while I'm very Scottish and don't like to spend money, I know I'm going to have to. And because I'm putting it all on YouTube, my 2 favorite words in the English language will come into play here. And those words are, it's deductible. We'll see, though. It's still a chunk of change to come up with. But I am hoping to have this portion of the shop done to where I can move the CNC. Don't quote me. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. I'm hoping by the end of September I'll be done and in the ding dong thing. So let's see. All right. I think I got everything caught up. There are a couple of people saying, just one second here. Smoke. All y'all Californians can come take your smoke back. We would appreciate it. Options, shaded background style, image. Yes. Thank you for that, John. I do appreciate it. Now we got to figure out where to go put that image. I'll do some research on that, and maybe I'll have an answer for you next week, and I'll do a quick run through of it. I've also been storing up, along with the subject of clicking the easy button, I've also been storing up little tidbits like that to do a tips and tricks video. And I'll get all of my ducks in a row, and we'll probably make that a part of it. But I'll get into it and see. Okay, on the issue of pressing the easy button, next week's video, which was supposed to have been this week's video, is going to be a couple of things. I'm going to get back into bitmap tracing and node editing for a a rather simple project, but one that people have asked me about enough that I think it warrants a video. I get a lot of questions about where I come up with my designs. Most of them I draw myself, and especially if you see that design on YouTube, because I have to be very careful with copyright. Because even though I'm just taking an image and bitmap tracing it, because it's going on YouTube, it's considered a commercial purpose. So I have to be very careful about copyright. One of the things that I'm demonstrating next week is good sources of excellent patterns and excellent artwork that you can buy, purchase. Sometimes they're free, but you can download, bitmap trace, and then incorporate into your own projects or make them feature projects. Like I say, this will be a little bit of a spoiler alert. I'm going to go ahead and screen share now. And I'm talking about scroll saw patterns. Scroll saw patterns are extremely popular. There are tons of different websites dedicated to scroll saws and scroll sawyers, and they have patterns like you would not believe. Now, this particular helicopter is an OH-58C model, observation scout helicopter, that I used to work on when I was in the Army. And what I'll be showing is how to download and use a scroll saw pattern and even do a little bit of modification. For instance, this serial number here was not on the original pattern. That's the serial number of the helicopter I was the crew chief of when I was in the Army in Germany. And I decided, what the heck, I'd go ahead and put my old aircraft's name on it, or serial number on it, rather. It's a rather simple process, but it's a source of patterns that most folks wouldn't think of. And getting a scroll saw pattern and converting it for use with a CNC router is very simple. And the number of intricate patterns out there will just blow your mind. And I'm going to be referring the website that I got this pattern from. And I'll link him in the description and the whole thing, and you'll be able to go check out his website. The man does phenomenal work, extremely detailed, and it's just, some of the stuff is just, holy cow, that's awesome level quality. So that's kind of a preview of coming attractions. That's what I'll be working on for next week. So we'll see how successful that is. A couple more real quick questions here. I'll be receiving my machine soon. Besides videos, are there any books you recommend? There is a book by, I want to get this correct. Dave Gatton, help me out, please. I believe it is Ralph Bagnall. And the title escapes me. Maybe it's George von Driska. But I want to say it was Ralph Bagnall. And it was basic CNC routing. It's available on Amazon. Tell you what I will do. I will go find that book and I'll link it down in the description. It'll be an Amazon link. I'll link it. It was George von Driska. Okay, it wasn't Ralph Bagnall. Okay, thank you, Dave. He corrected me. I I appreciate that. I will put a link to that down in the description of this. Give me about 10 minutes after we finish up live here, and I'll link it. It's an excellent book. And as a side benefit, he uses VCarve and Aspire and demonstrates a lot of the methods in VCarve. So, but I really cannot remember the title right now, but I will go and find it. CNC Router Essentials, says Bill Stauffer. Thank you. I will still link it in the description. Okay, Ralph has one coming out also. Okay. I tell you what, the CNC community is just exploding. And you have people who never thought they would get into it, because Ralph Bagnall and George von Driska they're big boys. They're up there in the publishing category up here. And they are starting to get into this, and they're seeing the need for this, for instructional videos and instructional literature, books, magazines, articles, what have you. So it's kind of been a slow burn getting it built up, but they're seeing how the CNC home hobby is exploding, and they're climbing on board, and I'm glad to see it. So I will find that book, and I will link it down in the description of this as soon as we're done. Ronald Cool wants to know, how do you add wood grain pictures in Aspire? There is a tutorial video by Vectric on that, but I am going to add that to my tips and tricks video that I'll make in a few weeks. It's fairly simple to do. If you go into, I think it's VCarve or Aspire, whether you're which one you're using, go to the help menu and then go down to video tutorial browser, and you'll find that video there, how to add woods or even change. I mean, you can take their picture and rotate the orientation, because sometimes they have the grain going vertically and you want it horizontally. Well, you can orient it, copy it, change the orientation, and save it, and you've got both. So I'll do that in part of the tips and tricks video that will be coming in a few weeks. I will make a note. All right, just wrote down a note. Okay, last thing I will say is the biggie for this afternoon is Michael Mazalik's video, which will be premiering in about an hour. There is already a link to it down in the description of this video. And he is going to show one approach for adjusting the Z height of your 3D model without losing a lot of detail. Because I know that is an issue if you adjust your Z height too short, you're going to start losing detail, because things obviously have to proportion themselves down. And you end up with a flat piece with a couple of bumps that you can't identify. Well, Michael's going to get involved in that. There is a link down in the description of this video. It will start at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I will be there. In fact, I'm already over there. Oh, 4 different approaches. Cool. All right. So I'm looking forward to it. Good grief, I've been on here for an hour. Let me just say, I'll see you over at Michael's video in about an hour. I will be sharing it on Facebook. And thank you to everybody who has clicked those donation links down in the description and donated to the Shop Shed project. Thank you very much for the super chats and the super stickers. You guys are absolutely awesome and amazing. You're making all of this a reality, and I really appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I'm going to get into that. Next week will be the scroll saw patterns for use in V carving. And after that will be a Shop Shed update. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if it doesn't stink too bad in there like wet paint, next week's live Q&A will be from the Shop Shed. Fingers crossed. Until then, thank you very much for joining me, y'all. I really appreciate it. Now go do something cool. Make some chips, but be back in an hour for Michael's video. I'll see you over there. And y'all take care.